Welcome to the Merch Minds podcast, where we discuss everything about the Merch by Amazon business and the print-on-demand industry. Here are your hosts, Glen and Yong.
What's up, guys? Merch Minds podcast, episode number 6. My name is Glen with the YouTube channel Hustler Hacks, and my co-host, half man, half machine, Yong.
I'm a cyborg, baby. Cyborg. They call me the Merchinator. I like that.
Out shirts like nothing.
Yeah, the Merchinator. But yeah, man, this is episode 6. I can't believe we're on episode 6. I know originally you and I were talking about doing an episode every other week, but it's been we've gotten some pretty good feedback, so we decided to do it.
Demand.
Yeah, that's a good thing. That is a good thing. So what's going on, dude?
Well, in merch land, we talked about the content policy, the last show. And since then, now we're kind of towards the end of October, the last days. So kind of like how we talk about what we're doing in our personal merch business. Last week, I saw awesome numbers. I think I talked a little bit about one of the days. I think I sold like 40 something shirts, and then the numbers were growing. I was like, you know what, this is good. Now it's like the last days of October, and yesterday was like, I think the lowest of the month. I sold like 14 or 16. Today it's been like 11 so far, so it's like another low type of day. But this kind of usually happens towards this time for me. I don't know if it's for you and for anybody else, but during the last at least 5 or 6 days of the month, it really starts to slow down for me.
I wonder why. So just remind us, how many shirts do you have again?
I have like 2,800 shirts, and I usually sell 25 to 30 range a day.
Okay, wait. Oh my gosh, dude, you're. I think if I recall correctly, I think last week when we talked, weren't you at like 2,400?
Yeah, I think I was, and I added shirts from here and there, and then when I looked it up, I was like, I don't remember adding this many shirts, but I guess I did, because I know one of the nights, I think I added like around 120 shirts. I know the last couple of days I've added, at least like another 80 something. So maybe it just kind of snowballed since then. I wasn't even too sure.
Man, well, I'm kind of surprised that your sales have slowed, especially since you have that many shirts. But I mean,
yeah, and the last, like I said, the last week was really, really good. I think I was in the 250, 260, almost 270 range per week, and then now only the last 2 days it really, really started to slow down. I think it's getting closer to Halloween. And like I said, usually this happens for me towards the last couple of days of the month, because I think people are kind of running out of money. And then once like the first of the month happens, like it starts just like kicking back up again, back to normal. So I don't know. Maybe that's just for me. I don't know.
Yeah. Well, I'm still at the 500 mark. I've said this in the previous episode that I'm probably going to be at the 500 mark here I'm predicting for the next 2 more months. But I've been doing solid, at least, in my situation. For someone having 500 shirts, I've been doing pretty good. And I have to admit, the last few days for me, it's been really slow as well. And, but I'm still on pace to do about $900 this month.
Oh, nice.
That's with 500 shirts. I did go in and delete a few shirts. So I think, to be exact, I'm like at 493 or 494. I checked my numbers right before we started recording this episode, and I sold 2 shirts so far. Usually I'm averaging about 5. So and for those for the listeners, I mean, today's Wednesday, October 26th. It's 4:30 Pacific Standard Time, and usually around this time, I'm usually like right around 3 or 4 shirts. So it was kind of
Yeah.
surprising. Yesterday I think yesterday I sold like 3 shirts. So it's been kind of on the low end. But
Yeah. Is
I
this going to
don't
be your highest total for the month though? Like of all
ever. Yeah,
time or yeah,
yeah,
okay.
yeah.
Okay, well that's good.
Last month was 420 something. And then before that, for like 2 or 3 months, I was right around the 250 mark.
Oh, so that's a huge jump then.
Yeah,
Man, I
yeah.
bet
So
almost $1,000.
yeah,
900 to
so
oh,
exactly. Yeah, so from going from $250 per month for about 2 to 3 months, and then I jumped to $422, $422. That's like 400, $422 last month, and then again this month is going to be 900. I'm hoping next month will be better. Um, and I think shirts sold. I'm somewhere. I'm like right around 100. I think it's
okay.
either like 98, 99, or something. Maybe 100. I don't know. So
Around there.
around there. Um, have you taken any actions as far as with the new policy that Amazon dropped on us last month or last week, I should
Um,
say?
I'm well prepared that quite a bit of my shirts are gonna be gone because I know I have, a lot of shirts that haven't sold ever. And I think a
Hmm.
lot of people think that because I have 2,300, 2,800, I was always kind of around that range that a lot of my shirts sell. And that's not necessarily true. I'm not going to sell every single one of those shirts. It's impossible to think that, especially without even like marketing or anything like that. So I have quite a bit that do sell and then quite a bit that don't sell. So after
Hmm.
that policy comes in, um, let's see what my new total looks like. But, I'm ready to just, I don't know, step up my game. Like, I think I need to just dominate from here on out. And a lot of it has to do, honestly, I'm like there's a certain point, I think I'm just super tired at this point. Like, not have to do with merch. The whole wedding stuff is starting to like wear and tear me down.
Mm.
Like planning and getting like all these little things never really even thought of that I'm like, man, really? Do we have to like, where's all the tablecloths? Where's all of this? And where's all of that? I'm like, oh man, like I just want to be pumping out shirts right now, making YouTube videos, shipping stuff on eBay. So,
Yeah,
at
yeah.
this point, it's really starting to like kind of like, oh man, but it is coming up very, very soon. Once that happens and I'm back from like honeymoon and everything, I think I'm just gonna go full beast mode. Like I really, really just want to like now I can focus
Hmm.
and really dominate. I think that's what I'm really, really waiting for. And pretty pumped, but it's gonna still
Okay.
take a couple of weeks.
Yeah, I can't design. Well, technically I can design shirts, and I have been designing shirts, but I'm stuck at 500
Yeah.
until I sell 500 shirts. But again, I've been looking online, and I think there's been uh, um, some issues with Amazon as far as tiering people up again. I'm hearing in a lot of Facebook groups that people they're not being tiered up like they should be.
Yeah, and
So
I've been getting a ton of emails. A lot of people have been asking me about tearing up, and to answer kind of like maybe just in general, I honestly think that they don't tier people up until a certain time of the month and they do it all at once. Like I don't really know. Every time I've seen someone tier up or get accepted, I've seen it like across different Facebook groups and it's
mhm,
been around the same couple of days. So I haven't really seen like, oh, someone got tiered up, on the first of the month, and then someone again on the 8th, and then someone again on the 11th or 13th. I've seen it all like on a certain day or a certain week where it happens. So I'm thinking they're gonna just tier everybody up at the same time, and maybe it's just I don't know if it's the
okay,
first of the month or maybe the middle of the month. Maybe it's gonna be at the 29th. That's when you get your payout. I don't know if it's around that range, but I think they do it all together.
Okay, I don't even have an answer for that. I think
Yeah.
well because I've personally only been tiered up just twice, right? From
Yeah.
25 to 100, from 100 to 500. And in my own personal experience, and I can't remember the time of the month that it was, but I remember being tiered up within no more than what 3 or 4 days.
Hmm.
But I can't recall what time of the month it was, or whether it was towards the end of the month or not. But yeah, I mean, we've been seeing a lot of, or at least I have. I've been seeing a lot of complaints from people in Facebook groups about not being tiered up when they should be. Um, yeah, I mean, like I said, I mean, I don't have an answer for that.
Yeah.
I mean, the only thing that I can say really is, like, just like in FBA, you just have to be patient.
Yeah, that's what it comes down to. And I think it's taken some people 2 to 3 weeks to get tiered up, some people maybe even longer. I guess also it depends on when you hit that certain number that you're supposed to tier up. And if they do it at the same time with everybody else, you could be waiting 2 to 3 weeks even longer. I don't know. Sometimes, remember, 6 or 7 months into merch, they did have that point to where they weren't accepting anybody, and they also they weren't gonna tier up anybody either. That could
Hmm.
happen too. I mean, they could hit some type of little wall, especially right now for Q4. I mean, who knows? It's crazy
True.
stuff right now. So I guess they'll just keep us posted. We just have to be patient. Really, that's what it comes down to. Because who really knows but them?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. So, you want to dive into our topic of the show?
I know, super
Uh,
pumped show that we're. This is one of the ones that we talked about in the beginning that we wanted to cover Photoshop and Illustrator and other different platforms that you can and or should be using when you're designing shirts.
mhm.
So this is going to be pretty interesting show because I know a lot of stuff that we have to get into and a lot of stuff that my boy Yong has knowledge in when it comes to a lot of the platforms. So where should we start? What do you think?
Yeah, well, I mean, this is probably one of the more common questions that I get. I don't know about you, but people are always talking, right, about what software that they should be using. And like you said, this is something that you and I talked about on a YouTube video, I think,
Hmm.
several months ago. And yeah, I mean, it's just something that people are just constantly asking, whether they're sending us messages or in Facebook groups, but it's just a common question that keeps getting asked. So Glenn and I was, like, well, let's talk about it on the podcast. What software should people be using?
Yeah,
And
and breaking it down too.
yeah, and actually breaking it down. Um, I mean, you want to start first, or should I just get into it?
Well, let me ask you a question. What's
Okay.
the first software you ever learned how to use?
Photoshop. That was the
Okay.
first one that I've ever learned. Um,
Okay.
um, and then Illustrator was obviously second. But here's the thing, guys. If you know what YouTube show that or the YouTube episode that we're talking about, go back and watch that one as well. But Glenn, but typically when you design stuff, you should always be using Illustrator. Um, that's what Illustrator was created for, is for design professionals to create vector graphics. It's not Photoshop. You have to use, well, you don't have to, but you talk to most professional designers, 99.9% of them would tell you that they all use Illustrator.
Yeah, and to compare them, so we're talking about Illustrator versus Photoshop first. Yeah, it's kind of the most popular graphic design software right now that you're probably are using or should be using. If you're comparing the two, Illustrator, just like Yang said, we're talking about vector graphics. So these graphics are scalable images or icons, logos. They can be small or large, as big as you want them to be, and they're going to maintain their resolution and their clarity. They're not going to be all pixeled because they're not made out of pixels.
Hmm.
So a lot of working with my family business, you'd be surprised how many professional businesses out there don't have their original vector graphics of their own logo.
Oh yeah, I deal with that all the time as well.
Oh yeah. And what happens is that they need the vector graphics so that they can use it, business cards, banners. You're talking about huge, even bigger than that. When I worked at the university, I was designing billboards. A little PNG or a little GIF file is not going to do it when you're trying to design a billboard. You need high quality vector graphics. You're not going to lose that resolution.
Yeah, and for those of you guys listening, if you guys can't vision what we're saying right now, if you're in front of a computer, open up an image, right? Not a vector file, but just like a PNG or a JPEG, and make that image as big as you can. Okay, it's gonna start losing its clarity. You're gonna start seeing that the image is made up of small, tiny squares, and that's what Glen's talking about. There's a lot of people out there using JPEGs and GIFs and PNGs, and if you try to make it big, at some point you're going to lose the quality of that image.
Yeah, and it ends up looking even blurry. I mean, it's a raster image that's in Photoshop, because Photoshop was originally created for editing photos.
That's exactly what it was made for.
Exactly. I mean, Photoshop, you're editing photos. You can make different changes, and you can mess with the brightness, and you can do anything you want when it comes to Photoshop. But you can also do stuff, they started adding more features and everything. So if you want to do something for web pages, banners, banner ads, editing photos for print, you can do that too. But originally it was just all about the photos. And when you're making a logo or a t-shirt design or something using Photoshop, you're going to have to do multiple layers, which also can be time consuming. And kind of like we talked about, you're not going to have that vector graphics, because if you designed it in Illustrator, you're going to have to use, more than likely, the pen tool. You can use some of the other shapes, but you can also use that very easily when you're want to use that same type of graphic onto other shirts. You can easily use it without having to go back and use a bunch of different layers and copying and pasting stuff, because Photoshop will get a little crazy when you're trying to design a t-shirt or a logo.
And in my opinion, I personally think, and you and I discussed this, I think Illustrator is just easier to use than Photoshop.
Yeah.
And like Glen was saying, a lot of the stuff you can also do in Photoshop, and I understand that a lot of you people use Photoshop for your t-shirt designs, and we're not criticizing you, but I'm Glen and I, from a design point of view, from two people who have design background, if you want to take your design business or your merch business, whatever you want to call it, if you want to take it seriously, we're just saying that all designers, professional designers, use the Adobe platform. They use Adobe Illustrator to design all graphics, and Photoshop to edit their images. And if you guys really want me to get geeky, let's just put it this way. Illustrator was created. They use some crazy mathematical algorithm in their software, and that's why they don't lose that quality when you scale it up or down. So yeah, definitely Illustrator. You should be designing all your t-shirt designs on Illustrator.
And learning Photoshop is not bad either. If you could learn it, I think that's great. I would rather learn Illustrator. One of the craziest things, when I was in college, there was someone that had asked me. I remember in the library, I was working on something in Illustrator for one of my graphic design projects. And this person, I guess, was a marketing major, I don't know what they were doing as far as like marketing and all that goes. And they'd ask me, can you teach me Illustrator? Because a lot of the, I guess, I don't know, workplaces, careers, things like that they were applying for was that they were asking them, do you know how to use Illustrator? And they
Mm,
were like, why would I need to know how to use Illustrator? And they thought that Illustrator was just a huge part of marketing. If you want to create your own flyers or brochures or anything to get your name out there, they thought having that background or that knowledge in Illustrator was just going to help them anything that they wanted to do in their marketing. So I thought that was kind of crazy because someone that also doesn't have any type of art background, you're like, what is this thing?
right, right. And after listening to this episode, we would really appreciate it if you guys don't message us and ask us how to use Illustrator, because technically there's thousands of videos you guys can find online that can uh, teach you better than we can, in my opinion, on how to use Illustrator, and they're all free. And I've said this before: if you go on Adobe's actual website, they have free tutorials, so you can learn Illustrator, you can learn Photoshop on the internet. You don't have to ask us. I mean, if you have specific questions about merch, we'll be more than happy to try and answer them, but we're not here to try and teach people how to use Illustrator.
Yeah, I do have a couple of places on where you can go if you want to learn some of those. We'll talk about those websites. I will throw out a little basic thing when it comes to Illustrator, though. Some people have had trouble using the template on the merch. I guess the resources that they have. I remember when I first
Mm,
opened it. Yeah, things wasn't really working right. I don't know why. Um, but I guess my best advice, I mean, if you just open up a brand new document, you're doing the 5400 by 4500 pixels, you're pretty much good to go from there. I didn't have any trouble after that. I think I did have trouble though when I opened their template, but when I just opened it to the exact specs that they wanted, I was good to go.
mm. So I think so. What I've been doing is, so I've never messed with their templates ever. I mean,
Yeah.
I just read what dimensions that is, that's required by Amazon. So what
Hmm.
I did was use, when I design my shirts, I go into Illustrator and I create a new document at 4500 by 5400. I create my design, and then once I'm done with that design, I export it as a PNG. But now here's the thing, guys. When you export it as a PNG, depending on how you save it, um, you can. This might sound really confusing. I know, Glenn, you probably understand. When you export it, you can save your file with the background or without the background. Again, I know that might sound a little confusing. Um,
Well, transparency, pretty much.
well, no,
Oh,
because when you export it, what I'm trying to say is there's an option, and I wish I wish I can visually show you guys, but there's an option that says, do you want me to save the background? And what it does is when you save it with the background, um, you're gonna get the whole background of the Illustrator file. And then if you uncheck it, Illustrator is smart enough where it just saves just gosh, how do I
the
describe
the
this?
artboard, just
Just
whatever's on the artboard.
just whatever's on the artboard, and
Okay.
it gets rid of the whole artboard itself, right?
Yeah.
You know
Uh-huh.
what I'm talking about, right?
Hmm.
And when it does that, so you now have this PNG file, but Illustrator exports it as a tremendously huge file, right?
Yeah.
I mean, the dimensions are like 20,000 by 60,000, something crazy, right?
Hmm.
That's when you open that in in Photoshop, and resize it to what Amazon wants, right? The 4500 by 5400.
Yeah. I mean, either one, you could do it like that. Usually, what I do, if I
That's the
already
way
have it
I
on
do it.
oh, okay.
Yeah, I'm curious how you do it.
On my end, so if I'm on Illustrator, I have the new document 5400 by the 4500. design whatever I want, put it on the artboard, and then when I want to save, I go to File, and then I go to Save for Web. When I go and
Ah,
press Save for Web, now it's giving me a PNG, and then I can click on transparency or not, which of course you want to. And then you already have your image size on there. You can resize it if you want to, but you have your image size, the same specs that they want. File, save, and then you're good to go.
okay. And that's a good point. So one thing I wanted to say is there's things you can do in Illustrator and Photoshop, but there's probably like a half a
100
dozen
ways to
ways.
do.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So obviously Glenn does it a different way than I do it. I like to export mine as a PNG. So that's interesting. I might try it your way next time, see how it turns out. But
Yeah, you can try it like that. But yeah, there's like that's the thing though on these programs. You'll probably see people do things differently, and you're kind of like,
mhm.
what? Because I've been doing it like this, and you're gonna get the same result in the end. Obviously, you want to, upload your shirt, but there's just different ways to do
Yeah,
things. But it
yeah,
is interesting to see what people do and how they
yeah.
do it.
And there's no right or wrong way, in my opinion. I think just do what you feel is comfortable, what you're familiar with.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, that's the way I like to do it. But how about those other softwares out there? You wanna talk
Touch
about
on
those?
those. Yeah, I think
Yeah.
another one. People have asked me to about Adobe InDesign, and that's just because they just didn't really know what it was. So
Mm,
maybe I just kind of explain a little bit.
sure.
Adobe InDesign is part of their creative suite, and you're gonna make books or magazines, multiple page PDFs, guides.
Flyers.
Yeah, I mean these are for multiple page layouts that you're not gonna do on Photoshop and Illustrator. We talked about Illustrator, logos, vector images. Photoshop, you're talking about pictures, and you can even do like web banners and easy stuff for the web. And then InDesign, multiple page layouts. I think in college I did do a couple of books. And my career job I had to do catalogs,
Mm,
80, 90, 100 plus page catalogs. A lot of work doing that stuff. You would use InDesign for that.
exactly.
In case anybody really, really, really wanted to know the differences between all three of those. And price wise, Yong did talk about how you can find the tutorials on the Adobe site if you want to learn how to use any one of those platforms. They do have the tutorials on there. If you want to just choose one, let's say you just want Illustrator, $19.99 is the monthly plan if you sign up for the whole year. If you want to do month to month, it's $29. So if you do the monthly thing, I guess for the whole year, you're looking at roughly $240 a year
Hmm.
for just one of them, though.
Yeah, and I think that's, in my opinion, that's money well spent. Um, First of all, it's a write-off, right? It's a business expense. You can write that off
Yeah.
at the end of the year. But again, if you want to take your business seriously, I mean, these are the stuff that you want to pay for. These are tools that's going to make your business better. So why wouldn't you want to pay for these tools? That can, in return, generate tons and tons of more money for you. So I
Yeah.
don't have a problem paying for, a subscription for both Illustrator and Photoshop.
And this is the Adobe Creative Cloud. So they do have updates. They'll give you the latest versions. Anything that comes out, you will get the latest updates and everything. And I think they give you like 20 gigabytes of like cloud space, so you can save work on there and access it at any time, just in case you lose your mini hard drive or thumb drive or computer gets stolen,
Uh,
something like
yeah, I know all about that. Trust me.
that. So they will give you that. What versions are you rolling with, Young?
Dude, I'm old school right now. I'm rolling a CS6 But I
Okay.
am, as soon as I get my new laptop here, for those of you guys that don't know what I'm referring to, I think it was episode 2 or 3 where I talked about my laptop getting stolen. But anyway, once I get my new laptop, I will be subscribing to the Creative Cloud.
Okay, that's cool. I am also on CS6. I got that. If you're kind of wondering why, I mean, CS5 is still pretty good. Creative Suite CS6, the one I'm using, still works very, very good.
Mm-hmm.
And then the Creative Cloud is the newest one. If you're looking for, I don't know, CS5 or CS6, eBay right now is your best bet, and you're probably going to pay around $1,400.
Wow, well, that's typically what they go for, and that's the difference, right, guys? Is up until CS6, you always had to pay for the full suite, which which gets very expensive. Like Glenn said, $1,400. Whereas now it's completely subscription based, and you just pay what, 20, 30, $40 a month.
Yeah, 20,
Again,
20 a month if you do the full year, and you get all the latest updates, which helps because I hated that too. I was on CS3, I remember, in college, and then like next thing you know, oh hey, this is already out. Next thing you know, CS5 was out, and I was like,
mhm,
what? I'm already like 2 behind. Like
yeah, yeah,
they move quick on
exactly,
these things.
exactly.
And that was one of the only benefits though, as far as like being a student, is like the deals on the whole creative suites.
Hmm. Hmm.
Because I think they would give you, I think they were like $500 for the full thing, or 300, maybe even less for the full, I guess, student versions. And it would come with all those three: InDesign, Photoshop, Illustrator. I think you'd also get like Dreamweaver, Flash, and a couple of other ones. So, you'd get a whole bunch of stuff. But, now they want you to go with the Creative Cloud. So,
Yeah,
um,
yeah.
yeah,
You want to
unless you
hear
want to pay
something?
the 1,400.
You want to hear something scary?
What happened?
At work, I'm still using CS3.
Whoa!
Is that crazy or what?
CS3. And
That
how's
is,
that
I mean,
working for you?
oh, it's not. It's not
It's
working
not.
for me.
You know what's a
That
hassle
thing
though
is so
is when
slow.
is when you're trying to save work,
Uh-huh.
and then you forget that you have to like save it as a CS3 to go
Yeah,
down.
yeah,
That you end up like just losing stuff because you're like, oh man, I can't even open this file on this computer because it's so old.
yeah, yeah. Just for the record, though, there was one shirt that to this day is one of my best sellers, and to this day keeps selling. I did design that particular shirt at work on CS3. It was very weird. It was very uh ancient almost, working on a really old software, but
Right?
it worked out to the point where like I said, it's been one of my best sellers. So scary,
You
very
hand
scary,
painted it on stone,
right? Scanned it in, and
scanned it
jeez,
in.
it's crazy.
One cool story though, I'd like to tell you guys. I was sourcing, of course. I was at Savers looking around, trying to buy stuff and see what I wanted to send in. FBA. I was looking at the CDs, and what do you know? Creeping out of the corner, CS5. It
Mm,
was used, but it did have the code that you need to use it and everything else that you need. And then, sure enough, put that bad boy in, and we use it here at the workplace because it ended up working good, and it was $2 at Savers.
wow, crazy,
I know, you
crazy.
never know though. Garage sales, people get rid of weird stuff, as you already know, Yong.
Yeah,
Garage sale champ, but
yeah,
you never know what is out there. And if you're out there looking at the CDs, DVDs, games, you know, CS5, CS6 might be in there for some weird reason. Definitely pick that up. You can get a super steal for a couple
yeah,
of bucks. And also, you want to look online. OfferUp, Craigslist. Some people do have those on sale. You might be surprised. Maybe they'll take $80 or something. Maybe they don't even know what it's worth, $20. But you also see on Craigslist a lot of the shady sellers selling you the bootlegs of Illustrator and Photoshop. And don't let anybody put any type of program into your computer if they are a shady seller. I can tell you that much right now. Not to save a couple of bucks. Don't do it.
At this point, guys, like we said, just save yourself the headache and just do the Creative Cloud.
Definitely.
Yeah, it'll save you a lot of time. But oh wow, yeah, CS3, man. But so you want to talk about some of these other?
Yeah. We wanted to get
other...
into that, but okay. Before I learned Photoshop, I learned CorelDRAW.
Wow.
I know. I'm going. You never learned it?
No.
CorelDRAW is pretty much like Illustrator. I also learned Corel Photo Paint, which is like Photoshop. And we're going old school. This stuff, I think it's like the first stuff that my parents' business that we actually had when we were creating stuff for like plaques and sublimation and stuff like that for clients. So CorelDRAW was like kind of the first one I really kind of like started learning a little bit. I thought it was cool, but I didn't really even know Illustrator and Photoshop, any of that stuff yet, because I learned CorelDRAW first. And you can create almost the exact same thing on CorelDRAW. If you want to create logos or vector images, it's almost the exact same thing as Illustrator, and you can save the transparent PNGs, all of that stuff, just like you would want to for merch. And they also have monthly things you can kind of go through if you wanted to. Their price is $16.50 a month.
Okay, so that was going to be my next question. I haven't even heard of CorelDRAW in
Yong.
years, and in years. I heard of it. I didn't even realize they were still in business.
Yeah, I know. That's what kind of got me too. I wasn't too sure too, but yeah, they do.
Oh my, that is crazy because I have yet to meet a designer that uses CorelDRAW these days. I don't know of anyone. That just boggles my mind to think that they're still in business. Wow, that's
Young's
crazy.
mind blown right now.
Yeah.
This show's over. Just kidding. So $16.50 a month. If you want the full version, a lot less cheaper than Illustrator and Photoshop, $499 for the full version.
Okay, interesting.
Yeah, and you can download that too. I think it's a full downloadable platform software thing. You want to download it, and like I said, it will do the exact same things. I think Photoshop, Illustrator, these things are going to run a lot smoother on your computer. Also, probably just depends on what kind of computer you have, on what kind of capabilities you have too, because it will slow things down if you have a old school computer. But CorelDRAW will do that for you if you're interested in learning that. And it's the same thing. You can learn how to use those programs too online. It's the same thing. So I guess what has been very popular with people that don't want to invest any money on Illustrator, Photoshop, CorelDRAW is Gimp, which is free. And really, it's just almost like Photoshop. It's not like Illustrator or CorelDRAW. You're not going to create vector images. I could tell you right now. So I don't know. I mean, it's good to an extent. You can also learn the tutorials. Like I said, it's free. You can download it, Windows or Mac. But it's almost like Photoshop. You're going to be doing high quality photo touch-ups. It's not meant for complex images or images for sure. Like if you want to save those as PNGs, but for sure if you want to do vector images, Gimp is not what you're going to be using that for. And to get vector images, high quality vector images, it's not for that.
Yeah, I don't even have an answer for Gimp. I've never used it. I know of it, but I personally never used it. So like you said, Glenn, I do know that it's free, and people like that option because of the fact that it's free. But I can't, like I said, I can't, criticize it or give it a compliment because I've never used it. So I don't know what it's
Mhm.
like. But
Mhm.
I mean, in my opinion, if money is an issue in the beginning, I would say Gimp is a good
Yeah.
alternative.
Mhm.
Um, but like I said previously, uh, if you want to take your business seriously, invest in the softwares that other design professionals use, um, because I think in the long run, it'll generate better, in my opinion, just better business practice, better graphics, better shirts. Again, I don't know. I mean, maybe Gimp, and I'm sure it does, because I know people use Gimp, but
Mhm.
I'm sure Gimp puts out great looking shirts. But again, I'm just doing what other professionals are doing and going with Adobe.
Yeah, in the long run, people, let's say you want to do your own thing when it comes to businesses. I mean, even like private label. Let's say you wanted to do your own private label, you can do that in Illustrator, create your own packaging. Gimp's not going to do that for you. Like we said, it's very similar to Photoshop, so you can do editing to your photos. But if you want to make your own logo, make your own packaging, which I've done private label stuff for different clients, Illustrator is the way to go. It's going to benefit you the most. And down the road, let's say even after the merch stuff is over and done with, let's say you really do like Illustrator, maybe you want to do stuff with graphic design. Um, that's really the way to go when you're talking about graphic design software.
Hmm.
And so we're talking about, I guess, a little bit of like where can you learn how to use these platforms or software, whatever you want to call them. We talked about the tutorials on Adobe's site, so you can go there. YouTube, free.
YouTube, yeah, and I'll put all the links in the show notes. They'll be on iTunes. But yeah, Adobe has free tutorials. Like Glenn said, YouTube. For those of you guys wanting to spend a little money and get some good quality training, lynda.com.
Mm-hmm.
I highly recommend lynda.com. I love that thing, man. I do have an annual subscription to lynda.com.
And that's with a Y,
Exactly.
LYNDA.com. Skillshare is another website that also has great tutorials. You can learn classes and things like that. And then Udemy,
Hmm.
which we were going to talk about too. You can also do that.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. So great platform. So I guess in a nutshell, okay, if you were to put everything that we just talked about here today
Mm-hmm.
in a nutshell, okay, Adobe Illustrator, Adobe Photoshop is what you want to use, okay. I would design the shirts in Illustrator, and then
Illustrator, yeah, over Photoshop.
yeah, over Photoshop. I understand people use Photoshop, that's okay, but just understand that there are some limitations. Um, Yeah, so and then Gimp again, you know, uh, in the beginning, if money is an issue, I would start off with Gimp, and then once you start generating some revenue and collecting, those royalties from merch, I would at some point invest in the Adobe Creative Cloud.
Yeah, and you're gonna notice too that the software is gonna run a lot smoother than it is with Gimp. It just doesn't run as it's kind of like a. I mean, I guess it's over time it has done well, but it's not gonna run as smooth as these Adobe platforms, or software, I should say, that you can get. And then CorelDRAW is in between because it is cheaper than Illustrator if you get the full version. But not many people use CorelDRAW, I guess, when you're talking about um, businesses and things like that. They're probably going to ask you for the AI file, Illustrator,
Hmm.
and then that's more than likely what they're going to ask for. If that comes down the road, and maybe you are designing something for somebody, they're probably going to ask for that.
Like I said, I didn't realize they were still in business. My mind's still blown. I might just buy one just to see what it looks like. I'm kind of shocked right now. I didn't realize they were still in business. My
And you know where
goodness,
else you can learn?
what's that?
I don't recommend it, but me and Yong did do this. University.
Hey, ha 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 ha. You know, I, this is a whole nother topic, but just real briefly, there's nothing wrong with going to college. I think
Yong.
it was one of it was a good experience for me. But
I
yes,
know.
yes, there are go to your local junior colleges, community colleges. They have courses on Illustrator, Photoshop. Those are people who who are hands-on learners and need instructors. I get it.
Yeah, I guess it could be. I mean, when I worked for the university, we did have, like the continuing education units
Mhm.
there, and of course, they're going to be way cheaper than taking the actual courses and classes and all of that, which maybe like I don't know, $79, $89, and you can get hands-on training. Might be something you
Mhm.
want to be interested in. It's open to anybody, so maybe you could look into something like that if you want to do something. But as far as getting a graphic design degree, if you're really, really loving what you're doing on merch and you want to look into learning graphic design, creating logos and brochures and guides and billboards and signs and who knows what else, pretty much everything you see, a graphic designer has created it. So if that's really something you want to do, then you can look into the university. But it's going to be the highest investment out of all of these options we talked about.
Exactly. Yeah. No. I think I think learning on the internet is probably your best bet these days. I mean, even the university these days offer online classes.
Yeah.
So I think if you really wanted to sit down and learn how to use these platforms, again, Adobe, Adobe.com, they offer free tutorials, and YouTube, Linda with a Y.com, Udemy. I mean, I'm telling you guys, if you just go on Google and just do a search, you'll find thousands and thousands of videos on how to utilize these platforms.
Yes, sir. And then you can also, you want to do the university route, you can just dominate on merch and then just pay back your student loans with merch money. Just kidding. You're going to be like, what is all this money? What is it? What am I doing here? What am I investing in? Oh, it went all straight to school.
I know, I know. No,
I know.
I would take that money and go on a vacation or travel or something.
All right. Enjoy that money.
Absolutely.
All
I
right. I
think
thought it was a pretty good show. What? What was that?
Yeah, no,
What was
no.
it, Young?
I was just gonna say I thought there was one more platform that other people are using, but is it Ink? I don't know.
I think some people have
Inkscape?
been using some apps. I think that they
Okay,
are even able to upload some shirts.
okay.
I really don't even know the quality though. I've never used any other apps or anything like that, but kind of curious to know if the quality changes or not. Um,
Interesting. Okay,
I mean, who
okay.
knows? I mean,
Yeah.
maybe.
There's a bunch of apps out there that you can generate T-shirt designs. But
Yeah.
yes, no, it was a pretty solid show though, man.
Yeah, I think it's really, really important to know the difference between Illustrator, Photoshop, InDesign, in case you really wanted to know about that one, because I think Young has gotten the question a lot of times too, as far as like the differences between those two.
Yeah, not just that, but just it's the most one of the most common questions in the Facebook groups, right?
Yeah.
I
Mhm.
mean, I see that question pop up like every other week. What software should I use? So, um, but basically, guys, it's your decision. Um, but again, for like the fifth time, if you want to take your business seriously, start using Adobe products, and just understand the difference between Photoshop and Illustrator.
Yes, sir. All right, Young, you want to tell them a little bit about where they can find us, talk to us?
Sure. Well, yeah. So you can find this podcast on iTunes, guys. And we've been saying this in every episode. We are still new to this platform, Glenn and I. Never done a podcast until we decided to do this particular Merch Minds podcast that we started for you guys. And if you guys appreciate what we're doing for you, please, we would appreciate you guys going on iTunes and leaving us a review. Doesn't have to be positive. If you're doing something wrong, if we can improve somewhere, let us know. But on the other hand, if you have questions, you can email me personally at hybrid, like the car, like a hybrid car, style at gmail.com. Glenn, where can they find you?
You can go to my website, hustlerhacks.com. You can email me hustlerhacks, the number 1, at gmail.com. I also have a couple of videos on YouTube. Hustler Hacks on YouTube. And I'm going to be posting the updates, my September numbers, if you want to check out that video as well.
Nice. I'm curious what your numbers are going to be like. So, cool, man. Well, hey, it was a pleasure talking to you as always. And then we'll talk again next week, right?
Yes, we can. Yes, we will.
Cool. Thanks, guys.
All right. See ya.